Well, hi there. My name's Tony Fiedler from Free Principles with Life and Soul, and I'm here with Steve Adair and Dennis Westerberg. And we're going to have a little chat about a recent Free Principles event in Sweden, and I'm going to hope that Dennis corrects me if I get this wrong, but on the beautiful island of Groto. And yeah, I've got a thumbs up, so that's good. Boy, you got to get used to all these strange letters with umlauts and stuff, and how they pronounce when you're in Sweden. But this is a unique conversation because really we've got the facilitator Steve and one of the participants, somebody who kind of came along to the event. So it's going to kind of be a conversation just how that event went and what the guys got from it, really. So maybe Dennis, we could sort of bring you in and welcome first of all.
Thank you.
And maybe you would like to share any kind of anything at all from the weekend, anything that's kind of struck you about the weekend.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that. I went to this retreat because my friend and colleague, Mr. Thomas Liddell, he told me about this retreat, and then I checked you guys out on a video on YouTube, and I really liked what I heard. I can't say today what it was because I actually forgot it, but you were pointing in some direction in your speech where I would look. I would like to, look in that direction. So I went with Thomas, and we came to a great island outside Gothenburg. I have never been there before, and the weather was great, and I met some cool people, very, very nice people. I would call them friends further on, new friends. And then the retreat actually started. And in the beginning, you told us to tell something about why we were there. And I remember actually I told you that I would like to look in a direction where you is pointing. I didn't know exactly the direction, but I was pretty curious because I think there's something there that I haven't seen, because I have learned a lot about the principles, and the three principles have mean a lot to me in my life and in my profession and as a person. But when I heard you on this YouTube clip, I just was curious. There is something more to know, and I think you guys know where to point. So I went there and I just started looking in that direction. I don't even know if you pointed in that direction, but the direction that I actually looked in was a direction of silence. So I just started to be, silent in my mind. I just tranquilized my mind, and I have to tell you one thing. On that retreat, I can't remember a single moment in my life that I have been so silent before, so calm in my mind before, ever in my life. I know that's not true, because probably when I was a little child and probably some other times that I can't remember, but actually, I was so silent in my mind. And the nicest thing I would like to say to you guys, not just thank you, but after the retreat, my mind has just kept on being silent and more silent and more silent. Yeah. And now I will give you a great thing. Because my wife, a couple of days ago, she texts me. And the text said, "I don't know what happened to you, but I really love it." So thank you, guys. So,
well, there's a testimonial in itself. The power of self, really, isn't it? That's kind of you're talking about pointing, and it's yeah. I mean, Steve, what would you say about that being the main facilitator from the weekend? You know, in terms of what listening to what Dennis has said.
Well, I remember Dennis saying something similar when we before we said our goodbyes on the island. And I know when we were asked from Free P Inside Out Sweden to come out to do this retreat, and we decided to call it the most powerful change in the world, because that's really what I've seen in my own life. And I've seen from when people truly hear from inside themselves, it really is the most powerful change. But it's not a change as in you've needed to transform. It's just like a natural, the natural self comes into play. Beautiful, like what Dennis had said there, that we see that. And I love when he said that, I know it's not true because I probably felt that as a child. And I love that, because it's those moments of innocence that we realize that we've always been doing our best. When there's no attachment to the judgment of, well, yeah, I could have. When we just see yourself in the innocence of the light of day, that we've always done the best that we possibly could. So I know when the guys asked me to come along and the rapport, the conversations with them, and not really knowing, even though we had a title, all I knew was that I knew that inside each person is innate health and well-being. That's all I knew. And I knew that if I listened to mine, then this big mind that we talk about in the principles will see the oneness of everybody it's there. So rather than it just being about what am I going to say, what's Tony going to say, immediately as a group, you could just feel the synergy of life. Or I could, that's what I felt. Immediately I felt the synergy. On asking people, why are you there? Immediately there was and the reason why I asked that was because truly believing that it was their own inner wisdom that took them to the island. They thought it was about Steve or Tony. They thought it was about this most powerful, wonderful change in the world retreat. But really it was their wisdom that's been there, like what Dennis says as a child. It's took them to that island, because when we turn up fully and be present in the moment, what I hear what Dennis said there is that's modern day miracles. That when someone can say that they can still go through their life, and we know Dennis's working profession, he's a busy, busy, busy man, which would be mentally exhausting, but to hear that he's still living with a stillness that he hasn't touched like this before, maybe in childhood, but knowing that now is the only moment, really. And that for me is the hope that I had when each person came along to Groto, was that they would touch their own true nature. I didn't know how that was going to happen, but I knew, is what Dennis beautifully says, if I point where I know where to go, when I realize that if I'm coming from a place called home, or well-being, or neutrality, whatever we wish to call it, then I know that that allows everybody to stand in their power or understanding. And with Dennis sharing that, it's beautiful to know that it's just, and this is what I love about the principles, it's just not, well, I felt great on the weekend, and now I've gone back out into life. It's continually, when you truly hear, and it's that when you hear Sydney Banks say, mental health is one thought away. Peace of mind is one thought away. And when Dennis was speaking, it was like, there it is. One thought away of just seeing in those moments on that island, of allowing himself to visit himself like never before. And I love that when we truly visit from our real self, rather from this concept intellectual person that we believe that we have to be. So for me, that's what I heard, was that Dennis's wisdom is just really shining more and more and more. And yes, to get that from his wife, it's like, can we have that in writing?
I got it.
Well, that's the most important thing, right?
Absolutely. But that's the beautiful thing. And that's what, again, leaving the attachment to, oh, I wonder how everybody will be when they leave. Knowing that when someone wakes up truly to how they've been creating their reality. Then it goes out into families, it goes out into work, it goes out into modern day, where families start changing from one person living in their truth. Because that, like the ripple effect of love that we are, people can't help but feel it within themselves. And that's what I hear what they was saying about, my wife sent me this text. She's waking up to something inside of her, that has the gift of seeing her husband like never before. And that really touches my heart deeply, because again, it's nothing to do with us, but it's where Dennis is in that moment. And that's, for me, how world transforms, how world changes. So,
wow. I can just feel that Groto feeling coming in as we're kind of talking here as well. It's just it's beautiful. Dennis, I'm just wondering whether, because more and more people are looking towards the three principles understanding, more and more people are kind of hearing about it, and more and more people getting curious about it. And one of the common questions is, well, what does a training look like? What is an event like? And I'm just curious to hear about what your experience of that is. What would you say to somebody who'd asked you that question about, a three principles event?
I actually don't know, because I actually didn't expect anything from the event, anything. I just knew that I would go there and have a good time and really listen to you guys. And I've learned before that you shall listen with a silent mind. So that was my, approach. But I can tell you what I experience, what it was like for me. It was two guys sitting in front of a group and sharing a lovely story about life, how they experience life. And I think that story would be very, very different from who is actually telling the story. So if you go with a retreat with Dennis, he would tell his story, and you go with Thomas or Steve or Tony, they will tell their story. And next time we go to Groto or some other place, I'm 100% sure that Tony and Steve's story will be different. And I would like to listen to that story too.
Me too.
And that's what's so fascinating, isn't it, about this work, about this understanding, is that all we can ever do is give of ourselves in the moment, in terms of what's there, how we're seeing life, how we're showing up in life, what's new and fresh for us. So, and Steve, I wonder if you can talk a little bit to that, in terms of being a facilitator and standing up in front of groups. And I, obviously, knowing you completely well, and we work together, we don't prepare for things.
Yeah.
Which is day and night different to everything that either of us were working on before, or whichever approach or whatever we were doing before, was a lot of preparation, a lot of work went into it. So yeah, it'd be interesting for you to speak to that.
It's interesting, because I was asked this question last night, that if I was to go to speak to like business people, how would it be different? And the only way I kind of likened it was like, the animal, a chameleon. When you put it on a color, it changes the color. And I see that that's truly how we all are, is that it's easy for us to adapt from one situation to the other, or by the gift of our personal thinking. So there's two ways. Our personal thinking can tell us we can't do that, we have to study this, we have to do that. But what I love about the way that how you and I point, to quote Dennis's word, is that we know that we don't have all the answers. but yet inside that person, they do. And the more that we hold that clear, the best that we can, we realize that the three principles is not a prescription. So it doesn't have to be done a certain way. But like the chameleon, we can turn up in the moment and just see truly what unfolds. So for instance, I remember one of the mornings, when I really heard clear, when you feel wisdom, you're in a timeless zone. And I really felt that weekend. So there's a difference from actually talking about the principles. Anyone can talk about the principles, but it doesn't mean that they're really coming from the principles, because the principles are not telling you, it allows us to see how our psychological experience is created in the moment and where it's been created from. But for me, when I heard, and I mean heard from a deeper place than my intellectual concept, what I heard was this: life lives you. This wisdom, intelligence, whatever we want to call it, is the expression of divine intelligence, which means that every single one of us is divine intelligence. So if we're all that, then why get into all the cognitive past of things that we feel we've done wrong or things we need to change? Because like what Dennis has said there, that there's things that going on that his outward life hasn't changed. He's still been busy with work. But yet the level of commitment to himself has changed. Where rather than it being, well, yeah, I'm 10 out of 10 today, or 9 or 7 or 6, it's just that space. We begin to see that our moods and our level of consciousness are only in the form, only in the personal. So what I like about turning up to hang out with people, yeah, we sat at the front just to give, but the group got closer and closer and closer. And it was only just to really kind of sit and for us to get our space of grounding in that moment. And knowing, and that we had the board beside us if we needed to write anything up. And the only thing I think we did was what time lunch was and what times our break was and those kind of things. And that's night and day different from, is what you say, Tony, the trainings that we would have done before, that we don't know the content until we're in the moment. We know what the three principles are, not because we've studied them or there was somewhere to get with them, but because we've had profound insight and change for ourselves. And once you've had that and you share from that place, it comes with such a beautiful feeling. And the feeling is beyond our personal concept. So it's the feeling of, you know, when you're in nature and you're just like, oh, this feels so great. Well, it's even deeper and better than that. But it's the connectedness that you don't see, that when you're standing by the ocean or you're standing in nature, you don't feel the separation, you just feel the oneness. Well, if you look at that soul for nature, that there's all the connectedness, then why wouldn't it be the same for us human beings? That behind all this is what Steve looks like, that's what Dennis, that's what Tony looks like. Why wouldn't there be a profound connection, just the way nature allows things to be rooted in it? So there's trees, there's plants, there's the oceans and everything. All that's connected. Why would we be separate from the intelligence of nature? And that's all I know. When I sit in front of a group of people, that's all I know. It's actually from all my NLP training, my hypnotherapy, my soul coaching, my psychotherapy training. It's the unlearning of all of that. Even though there's still beauty in amongst it, and I still see beauty in amongst those things that I was saying there, but it's knowing that I don't have to worry about getting anybody anywhere. They are perfect as they are when we look behind the mask. So I don't see them, I don't actually sit there and wonder what's going on for someone, but I see. So like it was in the Friday when we started, there was one of the young guys who came along. I could just see his eyes were brighter. Within a few hours, his eyes were brighter. And as the day went on, he didn't have any wrinkles, but his face was so much smoother. Yeah. And he started sharing the profound changes that he had. And again, that's what amazes me. I still am in awe of when someone wakes up to the true being on this earth. It still amazes me, and I hope while I'm still in form, it always does. Because even though I kind of know what that feeling's like for me, I just love seeing it in other people. Love seeing it. So for me, it's no different from, yes, maybe the terminology I would use, maybe the language or the wording I would use would be different if I was working with business or where I was working with, but yet the feeling would always be the same. Because when you bring yourself.
So I really hear what you're saying. It's the feeling that does the work, and that was my experience of the weekend, was the feeling, and just listening to you there, kind of all of us in the group, all from different walks of life, you know.
Yeah.
Dennis obviously doing what Dennis does, and a few of the other guys, and then other people that have just come to this fresh as well, but everybody just coming together and just coming in as one big group, and watching everyone hang out and hanging out, you know, in the evenings and stuff with people. It was just such a great experience. And as you was talking, I also remembered the fika.
Yeah.
And now I understand fika. And as Steve was talking now, I got this lovely kind of taste of coffee, and I'm thinking, I really want a cup of coffee now after that. So I'm on the next plane out to Sweden for fika. But I wonder, Dennis, if you could maybe just talk a little bit about how you experienced that feeling, that connection with the group.
Yeah, I experienced a great connection with the group, you know, and I think actually fika, you know, the break, yeah, were very, very important. It's like the spaces between the notes in a symphony, or you know, you see, because it's in the spaces where the rhythm, where you can find the rhythm, or where you can find the feeling, actually in the space. I think fika is very important for those kind of retreats, and it was a lovely, lovely feeling. The feeling was great when I arrived to the island, but it went just greater and greater and greater, and the love in the room was just everybody felt it. And the last day, a guy named Tommy arrived. I met him before, a great guy, and he just, you know, arrived, and he just join the feeling. Could you recognize that? He was just, he couldn't speak. He was just, yeah, I'm here. I feel love. That's it.
Yeah.
So it was a lovely feeling, and we had some great food to eat and some great drinks, and we some of us sat and spoke one of the evening to pretty late. Actually, help me with the English. We sat together, you know, and just discussing life, and had a good time in late in the evening too.
Yeah,
brilliant. Great memories.
I smiled there because when Tommy came in, Tommy and I had planned to actually take an afternoon section, and then he was going to talk about his walk feeling from that. Yeah. But when Tommy came, we just felt, no, let's not over talk.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing. And even though I've talked about that for a while, but that was the thing, is what you'd say there, Dennis, this space that it's created. When you realize that when you're asking a group, is there anything else you're thinking? And people are saying, no. That's the difference from any other retreat or training that we would have done prior. This understanding of the principles, that instead of filling people with information, it's the draining away the information. And when people get still, the naturalness is just to not want to say anything. So when Tommy came and we asked, and it says to him, okay, and I said, you know what, I don't know if I want to talk. And he says, okay, why? And I says, because can you just feel what I'm feeling? And he says, yeah. And I said, you just want to do your own feeling. And then what you said, he was like, I said, so now instead of you just having 20 minutes, you have an hour if you want it. And I think he lasted 10, and he was like, I don't want to talk.
No.
I don't want people to be doing, because everybody was just in that natural state of being, of well-being.
Yeah.
And that's what was speaking then. That's what took over. Everybody was just feeling it in such a way that, the moment was just happening.
Great. Well,
Sorry.
Steve, I'm just wondering, you've got some details there. I think you've been in conversations with
so there's
follow-up. So
there's Ulva from 3P Inside Out Sweden, which you can find them on Facebook. Have been in contact, and we'll be putting up the next workshop that we're doing. So we're in talk and possibly doing a Friday evening, where for anybody who's not heard the principles before, who's new to it, who would like to come along and listen, we'll do maybe a 2-hour slot. And then on the Saturday and the Sunday, then we will do the workshop. So you're more than welcome to join us on that as well. And it's going to be we're flying over on the 1st of July. And we definitely know that the 2nd and the 3rd of July is in Gothenburg, is where we will be holding the retreat. Now, I'm not even going to try and pretend to pronounce where it's at. So I will guide you again. If you're interested in this, please go to 3P Inside Out Sweden, or my Facebook page is Steve Adair, 3 Principles with Life and Soul. And we'll also be putting it up on our website, which is 3P lifesoul.co.uk. And I'm really excited about that, because it's very much that we've just decided to do this. And the same excitement that I had of A, we're going to Sweden, B, that I feel that we're going there for a reason, has landed for me again. So I'm really excited to see where this is going, because there's quite a few people from before and new people showing interest in it this time. So again, there's going to be all levels of understanding of life there. And I'm really excited about where we're going to go and what we're going to talk about and how we're going to share. And so, yeah.
great, fantastic.
Fika.
Fika, yes.
Lots of fika.
Yeah. And if you're English and you don't understand, then you have to come along to Sweden then to understand and join in the fika.
But it made me laugh when Dennis said about helping him out with his English. Your English is great, Dennis, compared to our Swedish.
Thank you.
Non-existent. So you're flying. You are flying.
Thank you.
Great. So, Dennis, any last comments or anything you would say to people that were thinking about coming along? I haven't said already.
I think they shall listen to their inner wisdom, and guide them.
Yeah.
Great.
And if there is any questions, then you can reach us, as what we say, through the Facebook page. And also, I look after the 3P Sweden Inside Out, as does Ulva and a guy called Martin. So any questions that you have, please be in rapport with us. And over the next, probably maybe within the next week, we'll definitely have all the details up there, exactly where it is, your cost, and all those kind of things. But if there's any questions, please let us know. We'll be happy to speak to you about anything.
Great. Well, Dennis, thank you ever so much for your time. It's been a real treat catching up with you, and just hearing from you generally is always a treat. So that's great. And Steve too. And thanks, guys.
Tony, take care. Bye-bye.